The whole reason Free Press was created was to involve the public in policy decisions that forever were made in the public's name, but without the public's informed consent. For years and years and years, these policies that shape the media, that tell you what the internet's going to look like, what's on TV, who can even get on TV, who can own a television or radio station, they were all made behind closed doors with expensive lobbyists, industry influence, but nobody ever bothered to ask the public. And the effect of that was that the public began to think, well, the media is just something that happens to me. I'm powerless to change it. I'm powerless to get involved in these decisions. But what happens when people actually find out that's not true? That these are incredibly important decisions that require public input is I think they have sort of an aha moment. And we've seen on a number of issues, especially over the last 3 to 5 years, or really 3 years, I guess. It seems like 5 sometimes, but over the last 3 years has been an upswell in public involvement and engagement in media policy issues. That's been largely in the form of media ownership. There was the Federal Communications Commission several years ago decided that they were going to change the media ownership rules, and they were going to let one company swallow up more and more local media outlets. They were going to let them own more stations across the country. They were going to let them own up to 3 television stations, 8 radio stations, and the daily newspaper in the same city. And suddenly a lot of people said, wait a second, I don't think that's such a good idea. You know, if I'm going to be able to be an informed citizen, then I got to have a lot of different views. I got to know what the right thinks. I got to know what the left thinks. I got to kind of know everything in between so I can actually make informed decisions about what's happening in my community and at the national level. So the amazing thing that happened, and I think this was somewhat connected to the fact that it happened during a run-up to a war, was that 3 million people got involved, called the FCC, wrote the FCC, called Congress, and actually got these rule changes stopped. They got the Senate, bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats coming together to say, we think this is a bad idea. And eventually the courts threw out the rest. Never would have happened and had never happened before. You know, the FCC commissioners tell us all the time, they didn't know that 3 million people even knew what the Federal Communications Commission was. And here they are getting involved, making their voices heard. And it had been so long since anybody had ever bothered to put some sunshine on the FCC that they had a tremendous impact. And we've been able at Free Press with a lot of our allies to really build on that momentum. We've seen it at the FCC and calling attention to government propaganda, for example, where, taxpayer money was going to produce fake news. Looks like a real news report. Somebody's standing there. They've got their little mic. Hi, it's Karen Ryan reporting. Let me tell you how great the new Medicare bill is. But, it wasn't real independent reporting. It was just public relations. And of course, a lot of corporations have done the same kind of thing. Let me tell you about this great new car, this great new product. Looks like a news report. It's not the real thing. Now the FCC is investigating that, cracking down on the practice. What is the future of the internet going to look like? Congress right now is rewriting the laws that will shape the future of the internet. So here we have a lot of older men in particular writing these laws. Many of them don't even have email. And yet they're going to decide what the future of the internet looks like. And the question is, are they going to listen to what average citizens, to what young people think about what the internet should look like? Or are they just going to listen to a couple of corporate lobbyists? Because their vision, there's two competing visions of what the internet should look like. And one of them is a tiered internet where a couple of big companies get a spot in the fast lane and everybody else kind of gets a winding dirt road, but you get better quality service as long as you choose a couple of corporate options. The other vision of the internet is the one we've always had, free and open, freely evolving, where if you or I have the next great big idea, if it's good enough and enough people agree, we can be as successful as Google. These sort of common sense type things, the internet should be free and open, those get lost. And the interests, the special interests from the big companies tend to get their way. And so what we try to do here at Free Press with a whole host of allies is bring the public back into that process. And there's 2 ways to do that. One of them is to just give them the tools, create simple ways for people who lead busy lives to get involved in what's happening in Washington, writing letters, sending emails, being able to tell their friends about it in hopefully easy to understand ways that don't get bogged down in all the complicated technical sort of gobbledygook that's used by the people who are trying to get their way to confuse the issue. You know, we try to play it as straight as possible. You know, the other thing we do is we actually go out into the community and try to organize events, bring the decision makers to actually go sit face to face with real people, because it turns out that these appointed folks, especially at the Federal Communications Commission, but even some members of Congress, don't spend that much time actually talking to constituents. You know, it's really easy to get a meeting if you represent AT&T or Comcast or Warner Brothers. You know, you have no problem sitting down with the FCC commissioner, but just somebody off the street, you know, can't afford a ticket to Washington, make an appointment, know the right people. So what we've done is we've tried to organize town meetings and public hearings across the country. We actually bring the FCC commissioners out and say, listen to how the local media is serving your, you know, these people want to tell you how the local media is serving their community. And the results, you know, at least for those commissioners willing to show up, have been amazing, you know, because they can't believe it, because everywhere they go, people tell them, I'm not really happy with how the local media is serving, or I like this station and then they're doing some coverage, but not so much over here. And how come I never see people that look like me on TV and on the news? And they begin to have an actual conversation. You know, here's what we think the media should look like. We think it should be owned by all sorts of different kinds of people, lots of different views, lots of options, lots of choices. And, you know, we believe that, you know, if we can actually involve the public, the media system that the public wants is going to be a lot better than maybe the one we've got now. Save the Internet campaign we've done, where, you know, we didn't, you know, the other side that we're fighting against spent $100 million. They're buying ads, they're doing all this stuff. And you know, our allies, who we didn't even know existed, honestly, when we started the campaign, are making videos and they're going viral. 20,000 people are coming in MySpace, you know. We didn't pay them a penny, and they come up with things that, you know, folks in Washington would pay, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a video that some kid just made in his basement because he was upset about it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's been exciting. Freepress is a national media reform and media policy group dedicated to involving the public in the policy decisions that shape their media and their lives. At Freepress, we think Freedom's Forum is a great idea for bringing more people from all across the country and all walks of life into the democratic process, and having that process reflect the views of millions and millions of people across the country.